Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome our audience here, whether you're here physically or you're watching via live stream, to our town hall regarding some of the concerns about traffic on Port Boulevard. Tonight's meeting is beginning promptly at 6:45 and will end at 8 p.m. And I'm hoping we have some productive conversations during that time. I'd like to thank our panel who will listen to concerns, ideas, suggestions, and we will certainly follow up after this town hall. I'm thinking by the latter part of the summer, early fall. We will run this forum like a community comments at our Board of Education meetings for those of you who attend our meetings or part of our meetings. And as I said before, we began, please come up to the podium, you sign in, please state your name when you are about to speak and what your concern or suggestion or outcry may be. And we certainly appreciate your time, you taking time out of your very busy evening to come here. Each person, depending on how much time we have, will have about 2 minutes, and we'll certainly let you know when that time is up. Now I'd like to introduce our panelists who are here this evening. I'm Michael Hines. I'm the proud superintendent of the schools for the Port Washington School District. I'm joined by Emily Bays, who is a Board of Education president. So thank you for being here, Ms. Bays. We have David Miller, who is our Director of Security, but also serves as our assistant principal here at Schreiber High School. We have Commissioner Frank Scobo. So thank you for being here, Commissioner. We certainly appreciate it. We have Assistant Chief McCarroll, who's here as well. So thank you, Chief, for being here. And I want to thank the many officers who are here also in our audience here. We have the amazing Sergeant Griffith, who I've had the opportunity to meet a couple weeks ago. Thank you, Sergeant, for being here. And we have Sergeant Patrizzo, who is here as well. Thank you as well, Sergeant. And we have the Hall of Fame police officer, Detective Tony Guzzello. Thank you for being here, Tony, and everything that you do for our students. Councilwoman DeMonte will be here shortly, and she will join us in the audience as well. So before we begin, again, I want to thank you for joining us. I'd also like to share some documents. I had the opportunity to look through some of the archives in district office, and there's quite a few. To be certain, one of them was labeled traffic concerns, believe it or not. So some of the documents I found when Assemblyman DiNapoli was in office back in 2007, there were some correspondence, some studies that took place all the way back in 2007, and then I found a relic from the Port Washington Police Department, which was dated in 2002, writing to then Superintendent Jeff Gordon, relaying some of the same concerns as well, and some of the things that have taken place over that time. So this is definitely nothing new, but again, I think this is a great opportunity. I want to thank Hank Ratner for bringing this together. Certainly appreciate that. And it's always, I think, constructive for us to take time and figure out if we can problem solve and come to some suggestions that may assist us moving forward. So with that said, if we wouldn't mind maybe asking who's first on the list here.
Robert Dremluck.
I'm going to apologize in advance because I think I'm going to go over 2 minutes, but if you would indulge me, I appreciate it. So I've lived in Port for about 35 years. I live in the Park section on Fairview Avenue. And what I've observed over the last 6 months to a year is something I've never seen before in terms of traffic and traffic violations, because people are going through the neighborhood. There are stop signs. They recently painted the stop line in the crosswalks to give people better vision, but that doesn't make a difference, because between 7:50 and about 8 o'clock every morning, it's the Indianapolis Speedway. Okay, so what does that mean? I think it's a safety problem, and I've had some neighbors report to me that they've lost pets. One family, a newborn cat, and another one, a 60-pound dog, was hit by a vehicle. Now, if I'm driving a vehicle and hit a 60-pound object, I think I'd stop and see what happened, but this is not happening. There's people driving through these neighborhoods, killing pets, and just leaving them in the road. So something has to be done, okay? This is because that 60-pound dog could be a 60-pound child. And then we've got a serious problem. So I've got some suggestions in terms of what we might consider doing. First, I think that we have a bus system that's not being utilized. I've heard concerns about the fact that the buses come too early for kids to wake up. So the bus shows up at 6:50 in the morning, and kids don't want to get up until 7:30 in the morning, so they don't want to take the bus. So mom and dad driving to school. So I think there are two ways to get to school. You either take a bus or you walk. But this whole idea of having mom and dad drive you to school every day has now created a problem, a danger, a safety problem for our community. And I think we have to go back to basics and say, what are we doing as a community to protect ourselves, our children, our pets, our communities in terms of this kind of behavior? So the other thing that I saw recently was the police department had placed an unmarked vehicle at one of the intersections and was watching some of this activity, and they eventually pulled somebody over. Well, they probably could have pulled 10 people over. They chose to pick one of them, but there were more and more going on. And every day I watch this process. I can film it, I can show it to you if you'd be interested in doing it, and you can see firsthand exactly what's going on in the neighborhood. Again, I've been there for 35 years. I haven't seen anything like this before, and I think that we have to sort of rethink our community and our safety and what we need to do in terms of protecting our neighborhoods. So I've got a lot of other ideas. I know that I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to end now. But if someone's interested in following up with me, you have my email address. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I certainly appreciate that.
Stephen Controne.
And while we're waiting for Mr. Catrone to step up, I just want to say, and this will go for anybody in the room, I'm here till you're gone, so I definitely want to follow up with you, and we're aware of a lot of those issues that you brought up, and we're actively addressing them, but I want to, and I'll speak to that, but we'll definitely link you up with our traffic sergeant and make sure that we're following up, okay?
Come here, Rob. So I'm Steve Catrone. I live in the Park section on Fairview also. I saw the dog get hit. It was horrific. I happened to be walking my dog across the street. The dog pushed its way past the 6-year-old through the gate. The Volvo hit it. The Volvo knew it hit a dog. It stopped, it hesitated, and it made a conscious decision to flee. And I'm like haunted by it. So every morning, they drop the kids off and they come down Elm Street, and the only way out left on Port Washington Boulevard, south I believe, is to go down. The only light is at Fairview. There's one in Salem, but it's at Fairview. So there's literally, I'm not exaggerating, 60 cars in like 15 minutes. It's unbelievable, and they go right through the stop sign. So I'm going to give Robert my minute to go over some more solutions.
Okay, so one of the things I've been told that's a problem is the bus schedule, and I thought that I'd mention that there might be a way of fixing that by doing sort of a staggered delivery of students and do the elementary students at one stage and then do the middle school and seniors or the high school students at another, to allow the buses to come at a different time, maybe later for the middle school and high school students to get, that maybe instead of 6:50 pickup, they can get picked up at 7:20 or something like that, and that might be a more acceptable alternative. I think the point I'm making is that maybe there's a dialogue that has to go be taken with the bus company and the delivery schedule to figure out if there's a logistics way to solve this problem. Okay, thank you.
Margaret Galbraith.
Hi, Dr. Hines. Hi, everyone. So my name is Margaret Galbraith. I'm from Transition Town, Port Washington. I also live in the park section on Bar Beach Road. My daughter will be walking to Weber next year. And I frankly don't leave my house or go to that area during that time. But why I'm here today is because one thing that we did last week as Transition Town is we did a presentation on what they're doing in Europe with traffic, and a lot of focus was on biking and walking areas. And our town, you know, there's a development that's going up in Manhasset Isle. There's another one which we're opposing on 145 West Shore Road. But no matter what, we're going to have smart development, green development, and there's going to be more cars. And so at some point, our town is going to have to figure something out. We're going to have to figure out bike lanes. You know, we could have a series of streets that are closed down at certain times that kids could probably bike on, and so it could be corridors. So I don't know the exact answer. I just am here to advocate for bike lanes and for a creative way of thinking about this, because this problem is not going to go away and it's going to get worse. And I hope my daughter is safe next year walking to school. So thank you.
Thank you. I just want to address the bus and the buses that we have here. Clearly, the pandemic has shifted over the past 2 years the way our children come to school. I mean, clearly there's always been traffic. And before I do that, I want to acknowledge Councilwoman Del Monte for being here, so thank you. We have an incredible amount of parents who are driving their children to school, much more than in years past. And I think the concern, certainly over the past 2 years, has to do with bus capacity and fear of their children getting sick. I think one of the things the school can do more of, and we certainly will, encouraging our parents to have their children ride the bus as opposed to dropping them off. So for whatever that's worth, that's something we will certainly do as we move forward into the fall. But if you look at bus capacity, as far as number of kids on students, it is down considerably. So we will continue to reinforce that. Thank you.
While we wait for the other speaker, I just want to also address some of the bus questions. So I think you brought up, Mr. Dreadlock, the question about staggered schedules, and also mentioning that the buses come very early, and I know that we've heard that as well. And so just to give a little history, perhaps for people who may have not been participating in Board of Education meetings in the past, we made a change years ago, and forgive me because I don't remember, I don't know, Hank Grantner, you may remember when we made the change where we staggered the elementary school start times, and so that we could share the buses, and it was a financial decision, so we could share the buses between the high school and the elementary schools. So what happens now is that our buses, our Weber and high school buses, Schreiber buses, do an early run. They drop off the kids at the circle up here at Weber and at Schreiber, and then they go back to do runs for the elementary schools. And so that was a cost-saving tactic that the school district, the school board at the time did in order to save money for our budget. I do not remember again exactly the amount, but I think we saved somewhere in the vicinity of $800,000 from our school budget that year. I also want everybody to know also, and I know that there's been conversation about maybe we should not do that any longer. I just want everybody also to know that we've just been told by our bus company that there is going to be an 18% increase for next year. So their contract that we currently have is going to be increased by 18%. We did go out to request for more bidders. The same bus company came. We had one bus company that bid. So I am not saying these things to say, you know, these things can't happen, but I just want to give everybody just the understanding of why we're where we are and why there are different, so if early buses, and the complaint has been that parents don't want to put their children on the early bus because they don't have to get to school that early in the bus, but it is one of the financial implications. You'll come back and talk, I'm sure of it, so hold off.
When I was in high school, I came up with this idea of creating a open kind of corner, go there and hung out for a while. So if that's a solution to allow people to come early to gather in a certain place, at least it'll eliminate what I was told was a problem when people don't know where to go.
All right, so just to answer that specifically, the high school is open, students are allowed in. The middle school, anyone that comes in on the buses are allowed in. Students in the middle school who walk up are not allowed in until 7:55. But all of the bus students at the middle school are allowed in the building. There's a place for them to be. Again, the high school is open for students. Those kids that get in at 7:15, they're open. We do open the library open a little early for them. There's clubs and activities that function in the mornings, so they are open. There are places for them.
Lexi Sachs.
Hi, good evening. I'm Lexi Sachs. I also live on Fairview Avenue in the Park section. So I apologize if anything is a little repetitive, but hopefully we'll bring in some more insight. I have 2 young children. I've only lived in Port Washington for 3 years. When we moved here, I refused to even look at a house that had heavy through traffic because I was so concerned about my children's safety. Sorry, this is very hard, but it's actually turning out that we live on one of the most dangerous places in Port Washington on a weekday morning. You know, besides the fact that we do get a lot of through traffic from parents driving to and from Salem, as you heard, Fairview Avenue is the only street that has a traffic light going on to Port Boulevard. So we get people that are dropping off on Bogart, speeding on Elm Street South for about 4 blocks until they get to Fairview, totally bypassing the stop sign, doing a reckless turn onto Fairview, and then just, you know, rapidly accelerating down the 2 blocks to get to the main boulevard. This is happening right at 8 a.m. when our children are walking to their bus stop. It's where all the Guggenheim Elementary School kids are, you know, the exact time and location that our bus picks them up. It has been, you know, truly terrifying to walk to the bus each and every day with our kids. But, you know, as you heard recently, right outside my house, we've had 2 pets that have been run over and killed. The children are witnessing this, and, you know, as residents, we know now more than ever that, like, something has to change now because we don't want that next victim to be a child. You know, I know a lot of this discussion is about the Port Washington Boulevard traffic, and I get that it's bad. I'm a commuter. I sit in that traffic. It's so frustrating. But just thinking of priorities, you know, I would rather sit in traffic than have children, or really anyone for that matter, put at risk from this reckless driving through these residential streets. And after our neighbor's dog was killed a few weeks ago in this hit and run, you know, we found out that the roads were actually designed to have traffic go east on Campus Drive, do the drop off at the schools, and then exit north onto, I believe, St. John's Place. And what we were told is that because that area there has a lot of influence, they were able to get that road closed so that cars could no longer drive through that way, I believe many years ago. And, you know, all I can think about that is that it's so unfair to put this heavily dense populated area with lots of children and people that live there going to work, you know, putting them in potentially harm's way because our roads were just simply not designed for this type of traffic. And, you know, I don't have a whole lot of ideas about the solution. I really just wanted to put forward the idea that, you know, fixing the problem with traffic on Port Boulevard, the solution should not be to use these residential streets. It's already terrifying as it is. You know, we really want this to change. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Mayor? So, first off, I think that, first of all, I got a call when the dog was hit by someone that lived out of district who was looking for some information to try to help. Unfortunately, there was no way for us to provide information cameras, et cetera, on that, because it happened so far away from campus. It's tragic. There's a dog owner. They just, I can't imagine. So, and the fears that, we all share the same fears that you all have. I think that separating what's going on Port Boulevard from what's happening on Fairview Avenue, or what's happening on Old Hills Lane, what's happening in these other areas are all interconnected. They're interconnected to volume, they're interconnected to lack of patience, civic virtue, and there's certainly things as a community that we all need to come to grips with. You're right, taking some time in traffic is far more important, but that extra 2 minutes for some people seems to be incredibly important. We need to work together to resolve that. I wanted to speak briefly to you also about the St. John's Gate. And you raised that as an issue. I can give you some history, not all the history. After 18 years, I get a little bit of history. Yeah. St. John's Gate has been closed to traffic since I arrived in this school district. Previous superintendent, Dr. Gordon, and maybe before him, had arranged with the members of that area to not leave that open. Over the years, we've had numerous conversations with residents of the region, expressing their concerns about traffic. We have permission to, we've told them we will occasionally open up that gate during inclement weather to try to act as a safety valve when things back up even more during weather. I think I've opened that gate up with in cooperation with the superintendent, maybe 4 or 5 times this school year. And that was probably the most we've ever opened it. I do not know whether it was designed originally for the buses to come in and out. I do think if we were to utilize that gate, the best use of that gate to take pressure off of Port Boulevard would be to simply allow staff in. We have a number of staff coming up that would reduce, they're talking about over 100 parking spots up on campus. And that could potentially release some of the pressure, which could potentially ease some of the burden. How much? It's impossible for me to know. But the truth is there is great political resistance. I have been down in that area. I have observed. I have been told that there is bedlam and chaos. I have never observed bedlam and chaos. I have suggested moving a bus stop from one block to another to help alleviate. I was told that that one block was too far to move that bus stop. So we all have our things to deal with in these areas. But I do think that that gate is the subject is worthy of some discussion. The answers, I think someone who studies traffic would be far better informed than I. I'm sure there's some experts on that.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to go in order as far as what we have here. Thank you.
Dave Goldberg.
Good evening, I'm Dave Goldberg. I live on Leeds Drive, which is, for those of you who don't know, is sort of on the Plandome Road side of town. I just want to first of all thank Hank for coordinating this or spearheading it. I also, I think we all need to thank the crossing guards and the Port Washington Police Department and also the port security that's up on Campus Drive. They do an unbelievable job. I have a 22-year-old who started as a kindergartner, and I have a current 15-year-old at Schreiber. So I've been, dealing with this. Our kids have never taken the bus from where we live because we're the first pickup on our route. And as a few people have mentioned, especially for high school, to get here at 8 o'clock, the bus would be picking up right around 7. With the immense amount of the demands, academic demands put on our kids, much more so than when I was a kid. You know, my 15-year-old is up very often up to midnight, sometimes past midnight. I know Dr. Hines doesn't like to hear that, but it's the truth. So for a 15-year-old to go to sleep at 12:30 or 1 o'clock, and then that extra hour is precious. Not trying to say he's a prima donna. It's not feasible to walk. Luke Ware is a very, very long hill, and we're at the other end of town. And I have to tell you, I did the same thing, a little anecdote story. I grew up on the South Shore in Belmore. I was on a canal. Kennedy High School, Belmore Kennedy, was on the other peninsula. I used to row a boat to school across the canal. Also to save, because my route was a 45-minute loop. To row across the canal was 8 minutes, and then I just walked across the field. So, you know, kind of the fruit falls close to the tree in this case, but I'm the one that does the commute. I'm in the bumper-to-bumper traffic. I don't like it. I do see some crazy driving, which infuriates me. I'm fortunate enough to own my own business, so I can be a little late, but I know that there are a vast majority of the people who are driving their kids who are in a rush to get to work and to get their kids there on time. And that's the challenge. That's part of this big picture. There is one little thing that I want to mention that I'm not sure if people are aware of. I do see regularly semi-trucks making deliveries at North Shore Farms. With all due respect to North Shore Farms, I'm a customer, love shopping there. Maybe they can get the word out to their distributors to hold up deliveries between that crazy 20-minute window, because those trucks are backing up and crossing Port Boulevard. It's tough for the drivers, especially in that traffic. And some of these drivers probably have no idea what they're coming into. They're just saying, oh, I'm making the delivery, and all of a sudden, what the heck is this? But those guys are navigating, you know, across 4 or 5 lanes of traffic to back up. So, I mean, we're only talking a 15, 20-minute window of that real witching time. That's really it. I don't have solutions. I just wanted to bring up some points, and I you know, would love to help out any way I can further, but I definitely think some studies have to be done, and we got to figure it out. It's getting worse.
My son went to Kennedy, and I know where the canal is. I live in Merritt, so it's a long row.
Thank you, thank you. Oh. I can't write that.
Shanaz Utz.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having this forum. I appreciate it very much. And we actually have been discussing the same issues with the representatives of the police department and also the commissioners, because this, I think, was a very important matter to be discussed in general for the community. And I think one of the things that everybody has also mentioned is that we really need a community effort. So one of the things that we asked was, would it be possible for the HSA and the Board of Education to really work with the police department and their representatives, the community representatives, to involve the young people to actually embark on an activity or some kind of a movement, I should say, to change the culture of driving in our community. I think that the young people will be very important in making sure that this happens, because it really is their future and they live in this town and it's their safety as well. We thought maybe a video be put on Facebook, maybe an effort with whoever who wants to volunteer. There are community hours that the students are looking for, so this might be a very good idea to use that time to to tackle this general cultural issue, because we do see a lot of aggressive driving. Everyone seems to be not having any courtesy towards their neighbors who they might see tomorrow in King Cullen, or I'm sorry, Stop and Shop, no more King Cullen. So I'm quickly going to go through some of the solutions that we actually have discussed in several discussions. What about closing the campus drive and allowing the buses to go? And then I'm so glad to hear that there is a possibility of opening those gates, because we mentioned that as well. If we could open those gates to alleviate some of the problem, some of the traffic. And maybe it would be very good, I'm not sure if we have the resources, but it would be great if we have a couple of more police officers to be present, so that people are not driving so, quickly and with speed and without any concern. To just have the presence and let them know that this neighborhood is not going to allow you to come here anymore if you're not going to be respectful to them and their safety of their children or their pets. So I think more police presence would be very important, especially for the areas where we hear that there's tremendous danger involved. And then I thought that one of the other things that would be good in general, we will be able to actually be safer if we can have some kind of a more possibility of walking. And I agree with, if it's possible to have some kind of a bike lane. Young people would like to bike, I'm sure. It would be very good culturally and for their physical health, and just getting out of the house and just biking themselves, or just maybe creating walking groups or biking groups, and then figuring out, that's up to the police department and maybe a traffic engineer to find out what is the best way to let these young people actually take charge of their own getting to school back and forth and be safe and feel comfortable doing that. My 2 minutes are up. I might come back in again because of a few other things. Thank you.
And thank you for those comments. When we do close at 8 o'clock, if there are more suggestions, recommendations, please feel free to email me, and then we'll compile a list of what those recommendations are. So thank you.
Natasha Kittle.
While we're waiting for the next speaker, I just want to make sure everybody's aware that we are aware of the conditions around Elm. Over the last few weeks, we've intensified patrols over there. If you live in the neighborhood and you want a little more information about that, if you have more information to share with us, again, I'm here, Sergeant Patrizzo's here. She's in charge of our traffic division, and we'd be happy to continue to collaborate with the residents over there and work with you. But it's definitely on our radar, definitely something we're addressing. And the matter of the unrestrained dog that was struck by a vehicle, we are certainly aware of that. That was reported to us. There's an active investigation ongoing.
My name is Natasha Kittle. I'm from the Park Section, Fairview. But I first wanted to say thank you to everyone for having this meeting and allowing us to speak. I've never really been at one of these, so I sent out a survey. I had about 160 people respond over 12 hours. Just wanted to share some of the feedback. Some of this you already know anecdotally. 44% of people who drive their kids to, 44% of parents drive their kids to school. So that's about 1,000 cars. Why are they driving to school? It's 30% of them are saying it's because the buses come too early and they want more sleeping time. 10% are saying because of the weather. Those are huge numbers. It's not just the Park Section or Beacon Hill, although those were the larger respondents. To have such a large number based on a small sample of people coming from Soundview, from Baxter, from the Terrace, it translates into huge numbers. Most recently, residents have witnessed, 80% of residents have witnessed people running through stop signs. Stop signs are in the local areas. They're not really those larger streets. 41% have witnessed people running through red lights. 78% have witnessed speeding, 10% have witnessed a hit and run. So that includes animals, cars, side swiping, quality of life things. 46% of people see cars double parked. 37% made it so difficult that you couldn't get in or out of your car. And 22%, which has happened to me on numerous occasions on the dreaded Fairview Avenue, which is actually a great block, blocked my driveway so I couldn't pull out. So we asked, what would most influence your child to walk or bike or take the bus to school? 26% of people said buses that are closer to the school start time. 18% said safe, walkable, or bikeable streets. 13% said later high school start time or swap the high school start time with the elementary school start time. 11% said nothing. I'm always going to drive them. And 8% said nothing. I'm always going to walk. And then finally, a small percentage said lighter backpacks or they were bringing equipment because of sports. It's totally understandable. So some of the feedback that we got, and I'm sorry if I'm talking really fast or slow, I get nervous. The main thing that has come up consistently over the past few years, and I was here before the times changed, there was always traffic in the park section. That was very normal. Once the school bus route changed, the traffic really took off. What I would propose, and what so many parents on Facebook proposed, is swapping the elementary school with the Schreiber and Weber Middle School. And it's simply, there's two reasons. First, in our area, you've got Long Island Railroad coming in rush hour. You've got rush hour drivers. You have Weber, you have Schreiber, and now you also have North Shore Farms, which I didn't even think about. Thank you. Secondly, biologically speaking, teenagers want to sleep in and younger kids want to wake up. So it makes more sense to just swap it. That's really the root of the problem. It addresses a lot of these issues. It cuts down on traffic. Some of the additional ideas were introducing bike lanes, more crosswalks along Shore Road, Beacon Hill Road. There's really no opportunity to cross the street. Prohibit parking on corners so that there aren't as many blind sites. And police quality of life issues like parking, litter. I'm sorry, and then the last thing is really people are so aggressive, they've lost their manners. And so I think Shiraz had mentioned creating some sort of campaign. I feel like there are two opportunities here. The first is in the elementary school where you can get the kids to kind of build upon something like this, kind of like what we did when MAD started. We all pressured each other, or when I'm aging myself, like seatbelts came in, and I would like tell my dad, you have to wear a seatbelt. And he was like, I don't have to wear a seatbelt, but like you shame them into it. So you get the little kids to do it, and then the parents will do what their kids tell them often. The second idea is for teenagers, all of the teens need community service hours. Can we create a community service campaign where they get a check for every time that they walk to school or something, and then they get all their hours, and it helps them in the long run. It's their psychological benefits, physical benefits, and then also they get the community service. So thank you, sorry.
Josh Kirschner?
Hi, good evening. My name is Josh Kirschner. I live in Montford Hills, which is on the bottom of Beacon Hill, specifically Orchard Farm Road. I just like to briefly respond to the residents of the park section and the security director who suggested that opening the gates at St. John's is somehow a workable or practical idea. First, each morning between 7:40 and about 8:05, there's a confluence of events that occur in our neighborhood that actually does amount to bedlam and mayhem. You have, excuse me, all of the parents that are driving their kids from points north of the schools, whereas the park section has them generally coming from south. The people don't want to deal with Campus Drive, so they cut through Orchard Farm or Summit, and they come down St. John's or Montfort, and there's tons and tons of traffic, and we have the same exact issues with parents who are in a rush to drop their kids off and get to work, or they're distracted staring at their cell phones, they're blowing stop signs, and at the same time, the daily school bus comes, weaving around all those roads, oftentimes unable to make turns because of the lineup of cars on Montfort, and St. John's. And then you add in the kids that do walk to school, which there's dozens of kids in Beacon Hill and Montfort Hills that are walking to school, and there's one major difference. Our neighborhood has narrow streets and no sidewalks. So we have kids walking in the middle of the street because there's nowhere else to walk. We have to stand at our bus stop on the street because there's nowhere else to be. And we have these people blowing stop signs, almost hitting us, almost hitting our children, almost hitting our pets. And I feel very sorry for the animals that were struck. But I mean, to suggest that adding more traffic is somehow a solution by opening the gates in any direction, it's nonsensical and I think a complete, just horrible idea. And I can't understand. And first of all, the gates are open every day. There's teachers leaving. And I mean, I've observed it myself. They're some of the most aggressive drivers out there. I guess they're excited to get home just like anyone else is. But they're coming through our neighborhood often at a high rate of speed. I mean, I haven't seen them as recklessly as the parents often are in the morning. But, they're not cautiously driving. So I think not only should parents be discouraged from using the park section and our neighborhood as a drop-off point, a cut-through point to avoid the traffic on Campus Drive, but that gate at St. John should be permanently shut. Again, there's no sidewalks, there's no crosswalks, there's no crossing guards, there's no traffic lights. It is bedlam and mayhem. Thank you.
Mary Ann Delamonte.
Good evening. So I'm here to observe, to listen, but after hearing some of the comments, I wanted to just make a few points. One, I'm fourth generation in this community, and St. John's Gate was never opened in the past. So I just want that to be, and I just confirmed that actually with Officer Tony, just to make sure that I was not dreaming that. Also, I have had the traffic engineer up, and I met with the parents at the Fairview and Elm Street. I put a SR in, which is a service request. We had the stop lines repainted. We had new stop signs put in there. We did observe, there was an officer there. We did observe people going through the stop sign. We did observe people driving aggressively, but we can't open, and Mr. Miller, I know that you brought up about the St. John's Gate, and that's the reason why I'm standing up here right now, because I did not want to speak. I just wanted to listen. That can't be opened because, as the resident said, you have everybody from Soundview, from all Sands Point, they all go there, and there are no sidewalks there. And I'm worried that a kid will get struck. And we cannot have that gate opened for even staff. And I can tell you with all the times I've been with the police officers doing analysis of certain streets, almost every single time I've been with them, we've pulled over actually a staff member of the school district. So I wouldn't want them going through that way. I'd want them coming up Campus Drive. So I do think that we have an issue here in the community about the way that people are driving, but we also have to speak to the staff members of the school district to make sure they know there are kids, there are animals. We need to drive the speed limit. We need to stop at a stop sign, and I'm saying that for everyone. And we need to not go through red lights. So I think that we have to work together with the school district, we have to work together with the police, and we have to work together with the town so we have a safe community for everybody. And I'm more than happy, and anyone that doesn't know me here knows, I am more than happy. I get up, I will be at your stop sign, I will be at your bus stop with you. I've done it before and I'll do it again. So please don't hesitate to contact my office. I'm here for all of you.
Councilwoman, can you stay up there for a minute? I have a question for you. See, you came and you spoke, now I have a question. So there was some discussion about bike lanes, and I know that you're doing a bike program, right?
Yes.
Is that part of the plan to put in bike lanes? What's the process for bike lanes? It's not, so the roads, can you explain about the roads?
Yes, so bike lanes, if anyone knows Aaron Molyneux, who works in my office, he wants bike lanes in Port Washington. The problem we have with bike lanes is if you want a bike lane on Main Street, I have to remove all the parking I can't remove the parking. Then we're going to have more empty storefronts. So you have to have a designated lane. So the bike rodeo, first of all, is for 18 and over. So it's not for 18 and younger. That's different. That's someone comes in from the city, or you're in, from Long Island Railroad. There'll be bike stations, Long Island Railroad, Town Dock, Manor Haven Beach Park, and you can come, get on the train, come to Port Washington as a destination, and basically shop and dine in our town, and you can take a bike around. So that's what that's for, and also to promote residents who don't have bikes. This is done in with City Bike in New York City. Pedal Share is done out east, and it works great. So we're hoping that it's going to work, that it will work. It's a pilot program, and then we will move this further into the town of North Hempstead.
Right, so the town owns Main Street, right? The town of North Hempstead, but Port Boulevard is owned by?
The state.
Okay, so if there was a discussion about putting a bike lane on Port Boulevard, I'm not campaigning for it, I'm asking, it would have to go to the state, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And also Shore Road is a county road. So if anyone signed up for my newsletter, every single newsletter at the bottom, it says who owns what road. It is very confusing because if you think of Port Boulevard, it's state to a certain point, then it becomes county, and then it becomes the village of Sands Point. It's very important when you put an address in, you're actually putting in a number and the address. And that will tell you exactly who is responsible for that road. And it's very, very important to know that. So you'll know who does your potholes, who does your plowing and things like that. So I really thought we'd have a low turnout. It's a very big room, and we have over 33 people here, and I think that's great. It shows that we really are engaged in this community. And I do want to mention that we do have Janet Lavin from Assemblywoman Solity's office here, and Betsy Golan from State Senator Anna Kaplan's office. We are all in this together, and we all work very well together. Thank you.
Hank Ratner. That's you.
Wait, hold on a second. I actually wrote some notes. I didn't realize that the teachers were somewhat responsible for this terrible traffic situation. I didn't know they were such bad drivers. If that's true, shame on them.
Hold on, Hank. Now, you know I love you.
So,
Well, I don't want to cast dispersions about our staff who,
no, you can't, but we can. So we're here tonight, it was my hope, getting this together, that we hear some ideas, which I think we have, on how to not solve the problem, but maybe calm things down. So I have a few suggestions that I think may have some steps in the right direction of calming things down. And I'll start with the teachers. I'm not picking on them, but here's an idea. I heard someone mention that there are over 100 cars driven to school every day by teachers. Is that a fair statement? Okay, whatever the number is, how about we have the teachers park up at Christopher Morley in the morning and shuttle them to the school and shuttle them back at the end of the school day? Just a suggestion. The buses, I'm going to ask you a quick question. You don't have to answer it now. Why can't the buses arrive later in the morning than what they're doing now, apparently? That's one of the excuses for kids not taking the bus. But here's an idea. Maybe it's crazy, I don't know. How about we incentivize the kids to take the bus? What do I mean by incentivize? How about we give the kids a bus ticket? And as they get onto the bus, the young kids, the older kids, the driver punches the ticket. At the end of the month, those children, young or old, who have the most punched tickets for that month, and I'm sure many of the stores in town will be happy to participate, they get a free ice cream cone at Carvel, maybe a hamburger at Burger King, something of that nature. The older kids who would probably laugh at that, the ones who are going to high school and the seniors, who don't take the bus now because it's not politically correct to take the bus. How about if they get on the bus with it and get that ticket punched, maybe they get a day off from school. No, just an idea. Maybe they get a day off or something of that nature. Campus Drive. Now, I've been told when I first started posting on Port Washington parents and Port Washington residents, I was told that, and this is no disrespect to the security guards, but that cars are pulling onto Campus Drive from their right turn or left turn, depending which direction they're coming from. They're stopped by the security guards, not incorrectly, because children are walking up Campus Drive where their parents have dropped them off. So they're walking up, and the security guard stops traffic to let the two children cross. I would think that it might make sense to, and maybe it's being talked to and they haven't, I don't know, to tell the crossing guards that they have to use some more judgment, again, no disrespect, that if two kids are walking up and ready to cross, but he or she, whoever the security guards are, sees that traffic is being lined up in Campus Drive, maybe he should stop the two children, let a whole bunch of cars travel up Campus Drive, and then maybe 4 or 5 more kids will line up and then stop the traffic and let the 4 or 5 kids cross. And then the same thing happens again. You allow traffic to go up, the 2 or 3 kids that are waiting, let them wait 30 seconds, a minute, and then the next group of cars can go up. And then I had something else I wrote down here. Wait, hold on a second. This is a state issue, but apparently Stiletti's representatives here. This is a state issue. It couldn't happen as quickly as maybe some of these ideas. But at the end of Willowdale onto Port Washington Boulevard, the crosswalk for whoever, in this case children, the crosswalk is on the left-hand side of Willowdale, Port Washington Boulevard. So when people are coming into port or to bring their kids to school, they can't make that left turn until the kids do that crosswalk with this crossing guard there. Well, if the state would move the crosswalk to the right-hand side, because that'll take 20 years for the state to get around to do that with the surveys and what have you. If they would move the crosswalk to the right-hand side, then traffic could flow much more easily, making the left turn onto Port Boulevard. So I hope I've given you a couple of 3 suggestions, none of which were made tongue-in-cheek, which I usually do. And I'm also thrilled to see the major turnout tonight. And compared to many other events, it is a major turnout. But I'm still very upset that of the dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of people who answered when I first started posting, aggravated, upset, and BSing, and moaning and groaning, where are they?
So it seems that's the last of the comments, suggestions, concerns. I appreciate everyone's perspectives. I certainly appreciate the time that our panelists took. I think most important, we heard from the community. I'm not sure how many people are watching live stream. Also, this is recorded, so if anybody wants to watch this at some point, you can certainly share it. In the meantime, I'm going to work with some of the panelists here to have some items move forward, like I said, in the late summer, early fall, so it's not falling on deaf ears. I mean, clearly some things need to be done. And again, I want to thank all of you for taking the time this evening to join us. And again, not being tongue-in-cheek, Hank, I appreciate you pushing this forward. This is a very good turnout. I think the over-under was 15 people. You're well over, as far as I'm concerned. It was 28, maybe it was 28. Nonetheless, thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.